Joining me now to discuss is a member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy of Illinois. Also joining us is MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller, writer at large for The Bulwark and host of the Bulwark podcast. Congressman, you are here with me at the table, so we will start with you. These intelligence briefings, obviously, they're very important. We also know from past history that former President Trump barely ever read them, didn't pay any attention to them. How problematic is it that he is now getting this kind of information again, and that'll be getting put together by somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who, quite frankly, doesn't appear to be particularly concerned about national security, at least from the way that Americans have perceived for the last 70 years?
It's terribly problematic. I mean, first of all, she's ill-qualified for this job, as you pointed out. Secondly, this job is really for the ultimate truth teller, so to speak, the person who's going to unearth the facts, tell the truth about what needs to be done to protect our national security. So if her job is to basically tell him whatever he wants to hear or to be loyal to him, that goes against the fundamental prerequisite to doing the job, which is telling the truth and being loyal ultimately to the American people in protecting their national security.
Tim, one of the concerns that any sort of common sense person would have is that, as the congressman just mentioned, the people putting together national intelligence have to be truth tellers. They have to be willing from time to time to tell the president, hey, this thing you want to do, it may not be the smartest thing, or this thing you believe may not be true. We've seen this all the way back to the first Bush administration and the Gulf War. You can't lie to these people. You had certain generals who would say they have a problem. How problematic is it that this incoming administration has not only picked people who won't be truth tellers in intelligence, but are trying to set up systems where they can remove experienced generals and national security people who would be able to tell the truth?
Yeah, I think it's troubling across a couple of different, potential avenues, Jason. I like the one that you guys are mentioning is, the kind of the top level, right? That Donald Trump isn't interested in information that goes counter to his worldview. Last time, say what you want about the people around him, and certainly they failed the country in a lot of ways. But he did have a handful of subject matter experts that did their best to try to tell him what was really happening out there in the national security and intelligence space, but also in some of the other cabinet positions. That's not happening this time. I mean, we're seeing that with his appointments. We all knew that this was happening. This is something that we warned about before the election. And so I think that's a real problem. The other layer to the problem, for me, is thinking about how comfortable our allies are going to feel sharing information with us. I think that's something that there's going to probably be some reflection on in European capitals when they don't exactly know whether Donald Trump and Tulsi Gabbard are aligned with them, in particular with regard to the situation in Ukraine. I think we could kind of go down this rabbit hole a little bit more if you wanted, but I think that there's going to be potential issues there, not just coming from internally what people are giving Trump, but how, the fabric of our alliances and how much intelligence sharing there's going to be there.
Congressman, I want to play you some sound from Gabbard talking about the Ukraine and basically sounding like a Russian propaganda artist. Get your thoughts on the other side.
Putin has made very clear all along that their security, in his mind, is what's at stake here. And they do not want to see. I don't want to interrupt you, U.S. and NATO troops.
Putin also said Ukraine is not a country.
It is not. It's not strategically possible to think that Ukraine is going to beat Russia. Presidents Putin, Zelensky, and Biden. It's time to put geopolitics aside and embrace the spirit of aloha, respect, and love for the Ukrainian people by coming to an agreement that Ukraine will be a neutral country.
Yeah, I don't remember that version of Aloha Moana. Maybe I missed that part of the film. Look, Congressman, the thing that concerns me most about this is, regardless of what people may feel about the United States support for Ukraine, and there are lots of different well-placed and well-meaning opinions on that, the fact that you have people who don't seem to have at least an appreciation for the American perspective on the issue and just want the perspective of the nation that was the aggressor, Russia. How problematic is that for our existing military and for the work that's already being done in that part of the world?
Oh, I mean, it's going to harm our ability to assist Ukraine. But one other aspect of this, it helps the Russians in their influence campaigns. Because they don't need to make a deep fake. They don't need to make some fake persona. They can just play Tulsi Gabbard all day long. Her statements, her press conferences, her videos, they can basically tweet it out to the world, and through their bots and fake accounts, disseminate it throughout other countries where we're trying to seek to gain the trust of the people there and trying to influence the way they think about current events.
So this is something about the document scandal from Trump that I always thought was extremely problematic when it comes to national security, right? It's like you ever go to a friend's house, you got them a really nice card for their birthday, and then you come by a week later, it's like, well, where's the card, right? It's in the garbage or something like that. Our allies saw those documents, right? And it's like that Christmas card that's laying next to the garbage. It's like, hey, I gave you that. I gave you that. This is important. What is the potential impact of this administration? I mean, clearly, France and Germany and the UK and Australia, they're not going to want to share information in the same way with a Trump administration. How can that endanger regular American citizens?
Well, remember, we have very important alliances and partnerships, even in the intelligence gathering and collection and sharing spaces, where we don't necessarily have eyes all around the world, and so we rely on others to gather intelligence and share it with us. It could be about threats to third parties. It could be threats to us. And so if we don't have them sharing the latest and greatest information with us, we can't protect ourselves. We have an arrangement called Five Eyes. This is with 4 other countries in the world, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, and Canada, where we share virtually all of our crown jewel secrets. And so I could see them basically holding back. And that would really, impair our ability to protect ourselves, our allies, and our partnerships.
It's really clear that the United States will no longer be in the national security group chat with this new administration, and that has real consequences. Tim, I want to move to some of these other people who are potentially going to be taking over important agencies. We just heard the announcement, and I honestly thought this was a joke, and then the staff told me, no, this is real, that Trump has picked TV personality and former Senate candidate Dr. Oz to run Medicare and Medicaid. Just your first thoughts with another television reality star being put in charge of hundreds of millions of lives, directly and indirectly, in a huge budget in a critical government agency.
Yeah, Jason, seems like we're on the wrong side of the political aisle, because we would have been prime cabinet potential, had we been on the Trump side of things, because TV experience seems to be the #1 experience for him. Here's the thing about this that's like not funny, is that CMS, it's like a real bureaucracy. It's like a real agency with real responsibilities. It's the type of thing that I'm sure many viewers aren't familiar with, like Andy Slavitt and the people who have run this agency in the past, because they're just competent bureaucrats. They're not TV figures, right? Some of these cabinet secretaries' roles really are a little bit, are public facing, and that's a big part of the job. That's not the case here. This is a massive bureaucracy that provides very serious healthcare services to the most vulnerable in society, the poorest people and the elderly. And putting a charlatan from television in charge of it is preposterous. And, it's hard to predict exactly what the negative consequences are going to be. But surely this is not the best qualified person for the job.